Now, before I deep dive on the song Catharsis NeXuS, I want to first tell a story about how the Psychosis Memoriam came to be. I was faced with a bit of a situation in mid 2019, and it was affecting my mental health. I also got out of a bad relationship at the time as well, where that also affected me as well. And I was in the process of recording an EP, and it was titled the Deflection EP, and my mind wasn't in it at the time because these psychological issues were affecting me big time. They're affecting me from recording. They're affecting me from doing anything, and I had no choice but to shelve that EP because it was, things were not very good for me at the time, and much to the chagrin of it all, I copped a lot of flack for it. Because I did all this promotion for it, and I was hyping it up and everything, and then my mental health wasn't exactly helping matters either. So I had no choice but to shelve it because and I had to step away from J Solo Project for a bit. So I had to deal with these issues through therapy at the time. And then my flatmate saw this band member opportunity in the newspaper, and he said, "Oh, you should join this. You're a guitar player, and they're looking for a lead guitarist." And I was like thinking, should I or shouldn't I? And I said no because I needed, I wanted to focus on my recovery, and I wanted to focus on J Solo Project, but I didn't really want to do J Solo Project. So he said, "Oh, you should join this band and all this stuff." So I rung these guys, and I decided to join up with them. And let's just say they had their own sets of baggage. I'm just gonna say that. I'm not gonna say any more. And then when I joined up with that band, I was getting hazed by the bass player who knew who I was in J Solo Project, and he knew who I was, and he didn't like me, and that's where he started hazing me, and it wasn't making anything better for my mental health at the same time as well. And then I was having issues with that situation that I was dealing with at the time, and it was not helping. And then after that, the other guitar player, who was the rhythm guitar player, because it was a two guitar player band, he got embroiled in some serious legal shit. I'm not going to say what it is, but it was not good. It actually landed him in jail. So I had to step up the pace, and I had to deal with that as well. I had to deal with doing his role as well as my role, and then I wasn't really happy in that band. I was just being in the band just for sake of being in that band. And then I think James decided to come out of the blue one day, and he asked me the question of, how would you like J Solo Project to get out of the fire? How would you like J Solo Project to be, you know, in a better state than what it is now? Because he said it has potential, and it has potential to be great. And I was like, more than anything. And then he pitches me this idea and says, I'm starting up a record label called Chorus Dawn Records, and I'm affiliated with blah 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 blah. I'm not going to say who it is, but he said that he was affiliated with someone higher up the chain than both of him and I combined. And he was like, I would like you to record an album if you sign with me. You can turn things around, blah 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 blah. And he hyped everything up, and he said I want you to be great and yada yada yada, and he'll dedicate himself to making me great and all this fucking stuff, and I was like, okay, you want me to record an album? Okay, I want to start recording the Psychosis Memoriam, and I want to title it the Psychosis Memoriam, and for me, the Psychosis Memoriam is about my journey through my mental health issues. So the Psychosis Memoriam came to be, and the pandemic happened, so I started tracking some stuff. I think I did Loosen in My Screams at Home, and I did a bunch of other songs. And then after that, after when the COVID restrictions became less and less, I was able to start up my own recording studio, and that's when Studio Sinistera came to be. And then after that, I started recording in that studio. I recorded Catharsis NeXuS, and I came up with this riff, which was da 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 da, and it was in drop C. And I wanted to make that song very tribalistic, but also very electronic, and just with the lyrics, saying that I've got all these problems, and that's what came to be. And then I had the opportunity to move from one building to another building down the street, and I reset everything back up, which took about 6 months, and then after that, I recorded the vocals for Catharsis NeXuS in my new studio building, and shortly after, due to me being ill prepared for doing vocals, I contracted viral laryngitis, where I lost my speech for a good solid 2 weeks. I was basically sucking on Difflam spray for God knows a long time, and I was sucking back lozenges like you can never believe. But after doing the vocals for Catharsis NeXuS, and it was just a complete nightmare. For a long time, I could not do vocals, and for a while, I had to retrain how to do my trademark scream. And yeah, it was pretty painful after doing the vocals for Catharsis NeXuS, but that's how Catharsis NeXuS came out. And also, James didn't really want me to release that song. However, I fought tooth and nail to get that song out, and here it is, Catharsis NeXuS.